Development at IGovTT, focusing on SAS solutions for the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Williams' previous roles include Chief Software Engineer at Teleo Systems, where he guided architectural decisions and technology strategy, significantly enhancing engineering practices and product development processes. Mr. Williams is passionate about teaching, advocacy, and building communities. He has also contributed to educational initiatives and technology leadership across the Caribbean. Please join me in welcoming very warmly our featured speaker, Mr. Irwin Williams.
Wow, it's a lot. Guys, as I set up, this is actually part of my ritual. Fiddling with the mic and everything, it helps me get rid of the nerves, and I feel less worried that I'll fall flat on my face while talking to you. But even if I do, I think we will all have a good time enjoying the comedy that results, right? Very good, very good. Good afternoon, distinguished faculty, students, parents, corporate representatives, and most importantly, awardees. I do have words and remarks I wrote, but I'm going to go off script every now and again because I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to see all of you, and that excitement may be overwhelming. So if you hear me kind of stutter a little bit or talk too fast or run ahead of my words, it's just because I know I'll be working with some of you later on, and it's good to see you here in your starting state, and I'll hear what the rest of you are doing very, very cool things, and that gives me real joy. But let me get back to these words and see if I can finish them. Yes? Good afternoon, as I said. Today, as we celebrate your achievements, as I look out at you, I want to start by asking you something. Who are you? I'm trying to name your class, your generation, really, and in so doing, understand their essence. The world you inhabit is unlike what any of previous generations have faced, and the way you do it is actually amazing. You make sense of the new at an incredible pace. You go beyond mere understanding. You create, you remix, you proclaim. Like on my way here today, I was looking at TikTok, and a lady was complaining. She was saying, I hate German music. I hate it. I hate techno music in the German scene. But she was complaining because they took her complaint and they made it into a techno song. Which is like, you create, you remix, you proclaim. And to be honest, that's amazing and a little bit frightening, but also very, very cool. And in sort of a way, I feel like I've been waiting for you. Let me tell you what I mean. Back in 2013, I started building digital tools to solve everyday problems. One of the first ones I built was a chatbot. It was called Time for Water. I used WASA's data and used their schedule because they started pushing out the schedule digitally. Before you had to call them or you just had to guess when water would come. They pushed it out digitally. And I thought, this is kind of cool, but I could remix it. And I did. I built this bot. And mind you, to be clear, no one asked for this. It's not like my boss was like, do this thing for this paying client. I was just like, look data, look idea, smoosh it together, and let's see what happens. It took a long time. And when I was finished, it was kind of janky. But gosh, I loved it. And I love this feeling of becoming something else. A digital pioneer, if you will. And I think we live in the age of digital pioneers. Communities form around ideas, and the ideas pave the way for pioneers to create. Digital pioneers are navigating a world where borders blur, cultures travel, and knowledge is free. The only limits being those we set for ourselves. But what does it really mean to be a digital pioneer? Does it mean, for example, that it's because the platforms you use, whether you use LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or Reddit? At first glance, really, these are just tools. Being a pioneer, a digital pioneer, is more than about being present on these platforms. It's about how we engage with the digital world and how we use it to contribute something meaningfully to society. A true digital pioneer is someone who understands that the digital world is an extension in many ways of the physical one. It's about more than scrolling through timelines and liking photos. It's about creating, collaborating, and leading. It's about having a voice and using that voice to connect with others, to innovate, and to solve problems. To be effective as a digital pioneer, we need to understand the contours of the digital landscape. Contours. Pioneering. Those words make me think about climbing mountains. Another story, back in COVID times, you guys remember that? In COVID times, most of us became hikers. We had no choice. We were stuck home. It was boring. We went in the bush. Right? I was climbing Camelback, not a Camelback. I was climbing a place called Camelback in Lopino. Now, while doing it, I became extremely frustrated. I thought, I wish I knew this was so hard. This is on the way up. The first time. Which suggested I did it more times. I did, but forget that. That's the next story. First time, I wish I knew this was so hard. But as I thought that, anybody had a geography in secondary school? Let me see the hands for the geography people. More hands, man. I know everybody here exactly. I had to do it as a part of your rite of passage, right? My teacher back then was a gentleman named Mr. St. Bryce. Mr. St. Bryce, he was not really a conventional geography teacher. And part of his unconventional was to kind of repeat particular mantras all the time. The mantras involved climate, contours, and communication. He would come to class with newspaper clippings and throw it at us and say, "Where are your clippings?" So it wasn't too much of a happy time, but he emphasized contours. He spoke about contours until his words became mountains. I just couldn't get it. Until in COVID, I did. This is 20 years later. If I had read the contour lines of the map they sent us for the very hike, I would have known how steep the hill was. To be an effective digital pioneer, we need to understand the contours of the digital landscape. We live in a world of incredible intelligence, where AI systems can perform at levels comparable to the brightest human minds. I mean, who here hasn't marveled at ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini? And before that, what about AlphaGo and AlphaFold? This year's Nobel Prize winners won because of work done and that contributed towards what you have as AlphaFold, right? And anybody here know what AlphaFold is about? Thank you. What is it about? There you go, predicting protein structures, right? In other words, a very, very hard problem. What will a protein look like solved with AI? Yes? And forget AlphaFold for a second. What about this past weekend? We saw SpaceX shoot a rocket into the sky, shoot the booster up, and then catch it. Oh my God. But intelligence alone does not solve problems. Surprise, surprise. Sometimes intelligence can be a stumbling block. You can know so much about all the ways you may fail that can cause you to reject opportunities of all sorts. What if I fail is the kryptonite to many studied, successful intellectuals. Failure can often be so unappealing to people with intelligence that just the fear of it can dampen enthusiasm. It can curtail momentum that you need for breakthroughs. I mean, and to be honest with you, I had some experience with failure. When I was an undergrad, I never came to this particular award ceremony. I was never invited to it. Right? I did computer science in undergrad here. Any computer scientists here? Any? Oh my God, 4 of them. Is that Akash? Sorry. I did computer science here. And there was one course that guaranteed I would never be here on this podium. There's a course called Design and Analysis of Algorithms. My God, I hated Noel Kalicharan. My God, I failed that course not once, not twice, not 3, 7 times. How am I even here? How am I even here? I failed it across both undergrad and postgrad. That's how I'm here. Anyway, failure can really be a killer. But even then, when I was doing this horrible course, I loved computer science. I loved programming. The algorithms didn't love me. But we loved each other enough so that I could build a career out of this thing where clearly I was struggling at. For us intellectuals and for us in the room here, those of us who were actually invited to be here, this may be strange to you. The idea that this guy who clearly failed a lot of things could be standing talking to you. And in fact, if you are not accustomed to failure, you may be missing out on a lot of the world. Failure can be your friend. And you guys need to hear it because it's strange to you. You are award winners. It's likely that throughout the course of your academic career, you were in school getting merit awards. And you were in school being celebrated and you were in front of the class. You need to get accustomed to failing and failing forward and failing and learning and failing and knowing it's not the end of the world. Yes? Yes?
Yes.
Intent. I want to talk about intent. Whereas failure can be unappealing, all right? To really get moving and moving past failure, you have to get past this mind killer that is fear. Intent is the purpose behind our actions, and intent drives real change. For all the good intent, for all the good AI can do, it doesn't possess that real human characteristic. It cannot intend. There are raging debates these days about whether modern AI systems, generative AI, can reason. What is not up for debate is whether modern AI agents can want. We know what it is to want to improve, to want to grow, to want to know for the sake of knowing. You are the ones who understand life and the life you live and the challenges your community faces, the potential your society holds. You are the ones who, through that wanting and that intentionality, you will birth solutions that matter. Understanding the contours of the future job market is critical, and intent will guide you navigating those slopes. We've all heard it, AI will take our jobs. Anybody heard that before? AI will take our jobs. Well, I challenge you to another question. What jobs? In this room sit the future architects of the job market. I'm really happy Dr. Coburn mentioned, look at the back, right? If you turn back with me to page 26. I feel like we're in church. Turn with me to page 26. I promise I didn't plan this, but Davy Frederick is the founder of Gentech Analytica. Well, you're all founders in my mind. What jobs? You will create the jobs. Yeah? It's said that the destruction happening to the job market will be to the tune of 400 million. But the creation will also be 400 million. So while you lose 400 million jobs, you make 400 million new jobs. So what are we talking about jobs? You will make it. Yes?
Yes.
You will create roles like climate data interpreters and AI ethicists and BioBlitz advocates. That's one thing I regret from my time here in undergrad. I did not spend enough time with BioBlitzers. It was cool. It was vibes. Go in the bush somewhere, count some animals, have a good time, maybe drink a few beers and come back home. Hope maybe you have the records, maybe you don't. Just go back again next weekend. Beyond that, jobs we can barely imagine today will exist, but which you, as digital pioneers, will bring to life. As digital pioneers, your journey manifests through your ideas, your creativity, your innovations. You will determine what the future of work looks like by creating solutions that don't yet exist. And that's where the real power lies. Not in technology alone, says the technologist, but in how you choose to use it. One of the most profound aspects of being a scientist or a technologist in the Caribbean is the need to reckon with our unique history. Yet many of us move through life without truly engaging with it. We are digital pioneers from the Caribbean. As Caribbean pioneers, we come from small islands, each distinct, yet tied together by a vast sea. This archipelagic worldview shapes how we see and understand the world with a view of interconnectedness, of multiple identities coexisting, often in complex ways. The sea isn't a barrier, it's a bridge. It connects us and makes our perspectives inherently broad. We have no choice but to be broad-minded. And sometimes it's kind of stated in a very negative way because we always hear people saying we import a lot. But we don't just import a lot. We look at the world beyond us easily, casually, natively. Because we're from these islands, we're looking out. We're always looking abroad to see what's happening in the world. And that trains you to be broad-minded by default. Understanding our Caribbean history is more like understanding those contour lines again. Many of us, despite our education, we look at history in a very piecemeal way, through narrow lenses of ethnicity and class and politics. But to truly grasp our potential, we need to see the big picture. How much we've accomplished as a region of small islands bound by shared history and sea. And so one thing UE does for us is it forces us to confront this Caribbean identity. Do you guys still have that course, Caribbean Civilization? Do you still have it? You guys remember, it's a foundational course, right? That's the other course. I feel 2 courses on this campus. Why would I fail a foundational course? I paid it so little regard, I didn't read the instructions in the exam. I went to the exam, write some essays and go. I write 2 essays, proud in an hour and leave. I failed the exam simply because I didn't sit down for 5 minutes. If I wrote 5 minutes more of content, I wouldn't have wasted my time. But I think that's an icon for how we sometimes treat the ideas of Caribbean civilization and Caribbean history. Oh my God, as scientists. But go from here with that, huh? It took me a very long time to appreciate that UE is trying to teach us something about ourselves that is important for us to use as we go forward in the future. We get to study alongside the brightest minds from St. Kitts, Antigua, Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago. I love that the first time I went to St. Kitts, I had a particular kindred spirit because one of my lecturers, Dr. Malalu, was from St. Kitts. I was like, hey, look at this place, this is her home. Anyway, in this space, we develop a heightened awareness of the global world, of how our Caribbeanness positions us differently. But many of us let that awareness breed fear. A sense that because we come from small islands, we might not measure up to the larger nations or the more developed regions. But just as with my climb up Camelback, understanding the contours, knowing our history and our strengths, helps us prepare and face these challenges. We must shift fear into strategy. In fact, many Caribbean figures have harnessed this unique worldview as a source of strength. I'm proud to say Dr. Henry, she's at Cave Hill. She's a lecturer in renewable energy. She's my friend. I know her. Kind of grew up with and around her. That's so much vibes. My friend from Trinidad built a car that runs on sargassum. That's crazy. 3 years before that, you're up in Toko and you're cleaning that Toko, Matura side, and wherever that part of the country is. And you're cleaning and you're kind of making a space for the turtles to come and you're thinking, where's this garbage? We could do this garbage. But Dr. Henry had the answer. Stick it in a factory, get some biogas, and drive a car. That's from right here. Of course, there are long-time people we know, like Professor Agard, who's working in biodiversity and has helped shape policies that protect our ecosystem and environment. And his intent to solve real-world problems has driven his research way beyond academic curiosity. And I want to end with an example from Dr. Hack. Right? I always passed her image because by the time I was an undergrad, we were celebrating her properly. I think you see the name every now and again for an award here and there. So I never did any of her classes. I just knew the name. Only when I was kind of preparing for her research and saw that she's an actual astrophysicist from Trinidad and Tobago, and she's advanced our understanding of extrasolar planets and inspired a generation of students in the Caribbean to look toward the stars. And it made me realize something. As much as SpaceX's launch and their capturing of the rocket is amazing, we don't need Musk. We have a hack. These Caribbean scientists, technologists, and innovators have used their understanding of our region's challenges to make contributions that go far beyond our shores. They remind us that our small size is not a limitation. It's a perspective that allows us to see connections that others may miss. It allows us to be nimble, to be creative, and to punch above our weight on the world stage. And so as you leave here today, I want you to remember 3 things. First, intelligence is good, but intent is better. Second, you are not just stepping into jobs, you will create the future of work. And third, your Caribbeanness is your strength. It's a worldview that equips you with the tools to navigate the contours of both history and the future. So as new digital pioneers, go out and create, innovate, take risks, and remember, it's not about the jobs AI will create. It's about the opportunities you create. Embrace your Caribbean heritage and use your intelligence with intent and let your ideas light the way. Thank you.